G'day there, guys. Jono Heath here from the Hive. I'm going on this live stream because I've had the privilege, I guess, this week to have been invited up to Phil Marshman's practice. And Troy and I, spent Tuesday and Wednesday up there working with the Pioneer Podiatry team. And I thought it could just be nice to reflect on team alignment. And I know a lot of you guys have run very successful team alignment days in the past. Some of you may not have done that before, but what we did up there this week was something which was just take a small resource and use it as a jumping off point to facilitate discussion. And so I thought I'd share some of that with you, just to give you a bit of an idea. For those of you who are not in Australia, Phil Marshman has a practice up in a place called Mackay. He's got an awesome team, and look, full credit to Phil in terms of thinking of anyone who is pretty good in the team alignment stakes. Phil has done a great job in bringing together people who are really on the same page. I think he's done a great job of selecting people who aspire to similar values and have the same idea about what healthcare can be. And great tribute to him that these guys on his team are all working together and doing a great job up there at Pioneer Podiatry. But we went up there and we did this team alignment. And I just for those of you who haven't ever done a team alignment, this is the objectives that I like to think about when you're doing a team alignment. So there's 4 questions that I think, you can probably hit maybe one of these in any particular team alignment. And it's worth asking these questions and then having a bit of an exploration about how can we facilitate something that helps us get clearer on one of these 4. So the first one is asking that question, why is what we do worth doing? And again, what do we agree to believe in? And some of you have done quite a lot of work on finding your why. This is all about, what's the real underlying purpose? And for those of you who have access to Optimus, the place that you would go and look at to have a bit of a refresh on that is actually the map section, and all of the map section in particular. And in specifically, there's a section in the why training, which is, where does the why fit in context of the bigger picture plan? And there's a finding your why worksheet that you can go and download in Optimus. But that's the first part of it. It's getting some agreement on why is what we do worth doing, and what do we really agree to believe in. And it's not just we fix this particular ailment. It's something that needs to be a little bit bigger than just doing that, because I guarantee if you're in healthcare practice, the knock-on effects that your patients get in terms of their whole life experience goes way beyond just fixing the particular ailment that they come to see you with. The second part that you might like to explore is, how do we agree to behave with one another? How do we agree to show up? What are the kinds of behaviors that would reflect a true member of our team? And again, where do you look up that? Well, it's more kind of in this standards area. How do we agree to show up? And there's a standards list positioning handout for you guys who are in Optimus. It's quite related to, and of course, what determines that someone belongs or does not belong. This is really, again, to do with the values. These are very much related, because when you've defined the values that you agree that are really important, that will determine how you behave, those are really quite related there. So that's another one. to be able to answer. And then finally, where are we going and what do we want the practice to become? Now, for those of you who don't actually have a team yet, you really need to know, where you're going. You need to have set the vision. You need to have created in your mind, in your imagination, this picture of what the ideal practice looks like for you. But these are in terms of a team alignment, these are the 4 areas that I think are really important to actually get the team all working together. And it's probably a bit too much of a chunk to try and go, okay, we're going to have a team alignment and we're going to nut out all of these things. I think that's too much to do in one team alignment, particularly if you haven't run this kind of thing before. But it's probably a good idea to say, okay, well, let's just focus on one of these things. It might be the standards. It might be something, again, we might check in on the vision. It might be doing a values exercise or a finding your why exercise. But in the end, the outcome of doing a team alignment is going to help everybody on the team feel closer, that they'll feel that they have each other's back, and they'll feel that they are playing on a team that is actually has a common purpose and you're actually going in the same direction. So that's the big picture for a team alignment. What we did up at Phil's practice this week, because again, awesome team already. They've done quite a lot of work on their why, and they've got that on their website already. Our mission: we fix foot pain so that people can live the lives they want to live. They've gone through a values exercise before, but what we did was we used a particular tool from Marshall Thurber, and I just wanted to go through this. Marshall Thurber, longtime business mentor, he came up with this 10, what he used to call 10 rules of playing the game. These may be slightly different to what Marshall used. They might be slightly differently worded. And I think these are awesome things. Now, we have often, and you could do this if you're running a team alignment in exactly the same way. We have done either put this up on the board, on the overhead projector, or we have printed this out. And and then handed it out. I often do this in a mastermind workshop, by the way, and we say, okay, well, have a look at these. These are all great, but does one of these 10 actually stand out for you at the moment? Does something actually give you some kind of deeper meaning for where you currently are at the moment? And you go through these. I'll speak with good purpose. If it doesn't serve, I won't say it. From 1 through to 10. And if you're looking at this video right now, I'd like you to have a look at these 10 and see if there's one of these statements in what Marshall calls the 10 rules for playing the game that stands out for you right now in your practice. It's a funny thing that I've done this many times, and often one of these will stand out and it's different from maybe the week before or the month before, because your context is different. You might have had a really troublesome patient come through the door that morning, and one of those things might stand out for you. And I think it's also nice to ask, if you do choose to do this exercise with your team, that you ask them to think about, how does that actually play out, or how has it played out in your life, and how has it played out in your experience of operating in the practice? And again, it's not just practitioners, not just front of house team. This is everybody together. And what happened when we did this exercise with Phil is, I think we actually got around, because there are enough people in the room, that we got around the whole 10. And we were able to then use each of these 10 as a launching point to talk about something that had happened or something that might often happen in the practice. That could be in the relationships between team members, or the relationships between team members and patients, or the relationships between team members and other health professionals who might also be referrers. And so I think in our team alignment, one of the first ones that came up was number 7. I think this is a really good one to have a chat about, because if you just read this one out, I will be kind. Most people are having a hard enough time as it is, and they're already their own harshest critic without me making it worse. Now, number 7 stood out to a person who is on the front desk, and I think that's such an important thing for you to be keeping in mind, whether you're on the front desk or whether you're treating people, is that you don't know the context for how they've even got to the practice in the morning. You know, they might be having a hard time. And if they are behaving in a way that, you know, you think, oh, gee, they're not very pleasant person, and just stop to think, you know what, I don't know what's actually going on in their life. Maybe, you know, they backed over the cat on the way to the practice this morning, and that's what's showing up in the way that they're behaving right now. And I think this is a really nice one to think about, you know, when you're thinking about the way that you show up for patients. I think the one that I always like, and I think someone generally brings this up because this is a training, above and below the line training that we often do here at the Hive, is the concept of playing above the line, that you're going to take ultimate responsibility. This is actually number 4 and number 6 are really related, because playing above the line is choosing to take responsibility for your own thoughts, your own actions, behaviors. And playing below the line is often playing in blame or shame or justification. And when you get really good at this, and you've practiced doing a few trainings with your team in the past, then you can maybe just put a few slides together. And this is what we did. That one is the above and the below training that we often do with the Hive. And so we were able to then talk to these above and below the line behaviors, and then provide a little bit more context about how that might show up in your relationship with patients, your relationship with other team members, your relationship with other referrers. And so that's number 4 and number 6 often are really good to start generating that kind of taking responsibility kinds of actions. Where else did we go? I think somebody said, to make the best choices, I'll need to manage my emotions. And that's interesting too, because, you know, from a personal point of view, I know that sometimes I need to put more emotion into my choices and to actually help motivate me to do what we need to do. Some people may have a completely different type of personality. It's really good awareness piece, by the way, when you're having a chat around a table with a group of people who all have different personalities, for you to be able to understand that not everybody on your team is going to respond or behave by default in the same way. Not everybody is going to communicate in the same way. And this one, you know, best choices, need to manage my emotions, good and bad, by the way. And then, look, all of them are good, but I'll just highlight one more, which I think was a great jumping off point for us, which was this one, that the messages that I'm communicating are the messages that people receive. If people get the wrong message, I need to change my communication. I can only speak for myself unless I have somebody else's permission. But this concept that we sometimes think, oh, whether it's a patient, you know, maybe they didn't do or go or follow through with the prescription, or maybe it's somebody who's reacted in a completely different way to the way that you expected they might react from what you've just told them. And it's a good just check in for you to go, you know what, that person's life context is quite possibly very different to mine. And I just need to be conscious that what I think that I am communicating is what that is the message that they're receiving, and to be able to actually check in on that message. I think that that's really important. But look, if I can recommend any single one-page resource for bouncing ideas and starting a conversation, then this is a great sheet. What I'm going to do is I will put this sheet in a link to this, 10 points in the comments below. And I'll also link back to the cause and effect training that Brian recorded on the Hive website, and the content context training on the Hive website as well. Because if you're running one of these team alignments, it's important that you get the most out of it. These things are a big investment, because generally if you're running a team alignment session, you're probably blocking off the appointment book for at least a couple of hours, and maybe you might do a couple of hours of the workshop and then run that into a lunch or something like that. So it's a big investment for you, and you might as well get the most out of it, because essentially it is an investment. The way that people show up is going to be one of the biggest opportunities for you to optimize, the experience that the patients have, and which then flows on to business results as well. So I hope you've taken something from that. And if you have any other great tips for team alignment resources, would love to hear them down in the comments.